when they were invited out to birthday parties, I would get so much anxiety and so much stress because I didn't want them to feel left out, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to bring them?
I'm Carla Moreno Bryce, a vegan, mom, and registered dietitian, and your host of the Vegan Kids Nutrition Podcast. All information provided in this podcast is intended to be used for nutritional educational purposes only. Please consult with a licensed professional prior to beginning or modifying your diet or making changes to the diet of a child in your care. All right, let's get started. Have you ever wondered how other vegan parents handle certain social situations? Or perhaps you're curious to know what other vegan families prepare for meals and need meal ideas? If so, I'm so glad you're tuning into the Vegan Kids Nutrition Podcast today because you're going to hear about experiences, challenges, and inspiration from Mistye Momon, an entrepreneur, a mother of 5, and a beacon for the vegan journey. I had the pleasure of meeting Mistye at the Vegan Women Summit in May of 2024, where we were invited to speak on a panel and share our journey following a vegan lifestyle throughout pregnancy and our own experiences raising kids on a vegan diet. I was incredibly moved by her story because having the experience of raising 5 kids on a vegan lifestyle, with her oldest now 22 years old, her passion and dedication for veganism, I wanted others to hear how she navigated life as a vegan parent, even 22 years ago. Mistye Momon is our first guest speaker on the show, and I'm really excited for you to hear our conversation. She's also the owner of Buttafly Kisses Vegan Treats in Austell, Georgia, where she is not only committed to baking vegan desserts, but also to using wholesome ingredients and ensuring that every vegan treat tastes delicious. So without further ado, let's get started. Well, I'm so excited to have you here, Mistye, as a guest today, because I know that your experience, insights, and advice are going to be so helpful for the vegan caregivers who are listening to the podcast today. But before we get started, share with us where you're from, a little bit about your family, and what led you to raise a vegan family.
Okay, I'm Mistye, of course, and I am born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I am a mother of 5 children, and the crazy thing about it is I actually wanted 5 children. I
Really?
really did. I did. I wanted a big family. I felt like the more children, the more love. On top of the fact that I do adore children, my background is in early childhood education. I'm an educator first. And so that also sparked my love for children, of course. And starting in teaching, I wanted early childhood education because I enjoy the little ones. You know, they're little sponges. You kind of get to mold them and play with them and stay young and free. And so once I got into teaching, there was this itch of more. You know, I really wanted to increase myself as a person. And that was with starting a business. And I wasn't sure at the time what it was. And so I was raising my children vegan ever since they were born. My oldest is 22 now, just had a birthday. So, wow.
Happy
He's
birthday.
22. Yes, thank you. He's 22 now, and I have been raising him, I'll say, since he was the first one, vegan his whole life. And during that time, there were no vegan celebratory cakes or cupcakes or just desserts that tasted really good. And I started baking. I started baking for my children's needs because they were looking so sad at celebrations, not able to participate and not able to taste the cakes or anything. And I won't say we were strict vegans, but I definitely didn't want to expose them to anything just for the sake of them having a celebration, and being
Right.
participating in something. So I started my business, Buttafly Kisses Vegan Treats, just to fill that need for them. And I realized that other parents also were in the same boat that I was, raising their children on a plant-based diet or even dairy-free, lactose intolerant, or egg allergies. And then a business kind of really took off from there.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. I know we're in need of more vegan snack and food companies just like yours. And it's amazing your story of how you had a challenge with your kids and you were able to create Butterfly Kisses Vegan Treats out of that. Before the birth of your business, how did you navigate those social situations, such as birthday parties or school events, if your oldest happened to be exposed to not vegan food?
Right. That was really the most challenging. As of course, when they're in our care, when we have them from ages, birth up until we decide to put them in school, we can control so much more. Once I put them in daycare, I was so blessed to be able to have them in a vegan daycare. So that was really comforting for me. But when they were invited out to birthday parties, I would get so much anxiety and so much stress because I didn't want them to feel left out, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, what am I going to do? Like, what am I going to bring them? And how am I going to carry it? Are the people at the party going to look at me crazy for saying, no, we're not going to eat your cake or your cupcakes. Please don't give him ice cream. It was so much to stand up for yourself too, and be okay with that judgment from other people. Like, oh, okay, well, what are you going to eat? Or even they're passing out hot dogs and my child is like, what?
Yeah.
What are we eating? So it was beyond just the desserts. I had to also provide the food, for my child. And so after a few events of like, okay, this is not going to work. And I'm going to have to start advocating for myself and be okay saying, no, he
Hmm.
doesn't eat.
Hmm.
So, well, what about, people would try, we'll just take the cheese off. No, thank you. Like we're not going to do that at all. And so I had to be very proactive and start bringing our own things. And it wasn't pizza. It may have just been his favorite snack. It may have just been a sandwich. When it came to the celebratory cakes and cupcakes, I would just get like a bowl of fruit for him and have him eat it, or just be like, do you want your favorite snack or do you want this fruit? Or even a granola bowl. I would just make little granola bowls, at the time, and they had vegan yogurt, of course, and so I put a little bit of yogurt in it, just something that would feel like it was sweet, but it was very challenging to be. I almost did not want to be invited to parties because beyond the desserts, we had to think about the food because all the kids are running around eating pizza, hot dogs, wings, whatever the kids had at the parties, and we were not going to participate in that. And also, it felt awkward to say, no, we're just going to eat the celery and the
Right.
carrots.
Yeah.
Thank you. But once I got over that, I just had to advocate for myself and, and my child and my children moving forward.
I often feel that as parents, we want to do that, but often feel afraid or have fear in order
Agreed.
to advocate not just for ourselves, but especially for our kids. And
Agreed.
so, where did you find that confidence and how long did it take for you to say, no, these are my values and I want to follow through with them?
Absolutely. Just like how we're talking and how I met you and the wonderful women on the panel, that community of meeting other like-minded individuals, other parents, other moms was really the strength, right? I mentioned they attended a vegan daycare. So speaking about the woes and the challenges with other women, and other moms and other families made it so much easier because they would kind of give me tips on what they were doing, or like, no, this is what we do. We're absolutely not. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's okay. Good. Okay. Yes. So I would say community, just building a community of like-minded individuals, especially moms. We really need each other.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
it's a big deal. It's difficult to parent isolated, especially
Yeah.
as women, and we sometimes we think we're the only ones going through certain things, and when we have that community, like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. I feel so much better,
You
and
feel
we can share
seen.
tips. Yeah, you feel
Yes.
seen. So I would
Hmm.
say creating that community and having like-minded individuals and women to discuss with gave me that confidence.
It's amazing. Now, back then, we didn't really hear vegan families or about vegan kids. What was that experience 22 years ago?
Marla, it was so rough. I think I was called so many things, maybe not blatant in my face, but I definitely would hear the comments.
Mm,
I was neglecting my children.
yeah.
I battled with so many people who I'd known for years on where
Hmm.
you're going to get your protein from.
Hmm.
Like I would meet just bringing to a skating rink, like over the summer, kid at day camp, we're at a skating rink having fun. And now I'm in a debate on hot dogs, like, oh, I was like, no, he's not eating that. No, we don't eat hot dogs. Now I have to explain to people why we don't eat hot dogs. And I'm like, do you really want the true answer or do you want just a politically correct answer? Because I can break
Yeah.
it all the way down for you on how disgusting this is, but it was very challenging, even in the family
Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
Um, Parents, brothers, they made us feel like we were doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
We were being neglectful, and everyone else is fine. Your family grew up eating this, and they're fine.
Hmm.
Why would you
Hmm.
deprive your children and your family of? And I'm like, of what? Give me the answer of what? What are we depriving them of? Um, but those were some really tough times, finding the confidence to still stay the course on raising our children vegan and plant-based and things like that. Those were really challenging.
Yeah. I can't imagine what that was like back then. I mean, we're still facing that today in 2024. And
Yeah,
it's mind-boggling to think that this lifestyle isn't supported by society and family members and especially healthcare providers. I mean, many healthcare providers that I hear of often advise parents against a vegan diet. And given the data, granted, it's a little bit limited right now with vegan kids, but given the
right.
data that we have right now, generally on a plant based diet, we know that it's appropriate, that a
Agreed.
well balanced and supplemented diet is perfectly adequate to support the growth of vegan kids. Now, did
Yeah.
you ever experience those kind of challenges with healthcare providers?
Yes, I think that was very challenging as well, especially because we are raising our children holistically. That means, no immunizations. We are not doing the traditional, checkups. Like my children are fine, leave them alone, because we have to answer so many questions. And I think the fear of them calling Child Protective Services, right? The
Mm-hmm.
fear of them saying, something negative to us and referring
Yep.
us to a specialist was really at the forefront of my mind. So I had to choose very carefully our pediatricians, and I also had to kind of tell them what they wanted to hear, so that we could move forward. And it wasn't that I didn't divulge exactly how I was raising them. I just made sure I'd let them know that yes, they're eating well balanced. Yes, they're up on their immunization. Whatever you want, whatever you need to hear for us to get through this, I will give that information to you. But also, when you are evaluating my child, you have nothing to say. They're healthy, they're doing well,
Mm-hmm.
they're growing well,
Mm-hmm.
which let me know this is something that is really working, beyond what the medical profession wants to tell you. But it definitely was a stigma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they ask the main questions, and you're like, yes, this is what we do. I just kind of pretty much gave them what they wanted to hear, so that we can move forward. Because that ridicule and that fear of we were doing something wrong and neglectful as parents. I think I had one pediatrician say, well, you are not supposed to give your child like almond milk. They should just stay on formula or breast milk. And I'm just like, oh, I just would say, okay, thank you for the information. And then I would go home and
Hmm.
make almond milk, or I would go home and make sesame seed milk, and I would still give it to them, So it's a tricky situation, but to navigate it and just agree. They're not in my home. They don't know what we're doing, but I will look, okay, thank you. Thank you for the information. We will do that. And then that's it. But it's so interesting. It seems like the medical profession should help and support, and they don't. So I think it's so important what you're doing as well. I'm so happy that I met you, because I would love to have had access to your information and your knowledge during those years of raising my children. It just would have made things so much easier. So you are a blessing to parents raising vegans, during this time in 2024.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate your kind words. And it's unfortunate to hear that you had to experience that because, from my personal experience, I've experienced that with family, but many other vegan caregivers have experienced the exact same thing as you did with their own healthcare providers. And it's unfortunate that we can't just, be free about it. And we have to
Exactly.
be silent. And to be honest, I find it really unethical for healthcare providers to not support us. Rather than telling us that our kids need meat and dairy, why can't they
Hmm.
just refer us to someone else? So,
Exactly. Or be knowledgeable about the fact that vegetables actually have protein in them,
yes.
that they're nuts and grains that have protein in them. You can get iron, you can get vitamins and minerals from plants and vegetables, And yes, we can also supplement. You can even provide us with some supplements too, instead of ridiculing us and making us feel like, if our children aren't on cow's milk, they're not going to develop strong bones, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Hmm. I agree. Yes, there's so many non-benefits to cow's milk, if that makes any
Exactly.
sense.
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
Now, I know meal ideas is something that my audience is frequently asking. Can you share a little bit about what are some favorite meals or favorite foods that are part of your family meals?
Oh yes. Oh my, I just made their favorite meal last night, and it is lasagna. They adore lasagna. I cannot make enough lasagna. But definitely because I am feeding, five children and two actual young adults, and they eat a lot of food. I made it a point to have to stretch food, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I made it a point to make things that lasted a long time, right? Like a big pan of lasagna, or maybe two pans of lasagna. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go in and give you lunch as well. That is something that is really good. So if you can learn how to make some lasagna, keep it simple. We make it really simple. We just throw a few vegetables in there. I realize they don't want broccoli and lasagna. That annoys them, but spinach, yes, and we keep it simple. We do a lot of pasta dishes,
Mm-hmm.
which can go a long way as well. So I'll do like a Alfredo, like a tofu Alfredo pasta dish for them. Lots of salads. They love salads. That is super simple and easy to put together. And stews, we do like a curry coconut stew. They love rice. They
Mm.
love basmati. They love jasmine rice. Our vegan kids are a little bougie, right? Because we're exposing them to different cultures and different foods, instead of just the traditional American diet. So we do lots of curry. We do a coconut curry. So I just put broccoli, spinach, bok choy, and tofu in it. Sometimes chickpeas. Most of my kids don't like beans, or
Mm-hmm.
so I have to be careful with that. And then I just put the curry and I put the coconut milk. That way it makes a lot.
Yeah.
And then we have a big pot of rice. And so we can kind of eat on that. So my goal, with such a big family is really to make meals that can last, and that can last a few days. So those curry pots, that lasagna, those pasta dishes, and fried rice. They adore fried rice.
Yum.
Um, can really go a long way, and keep it simple, so that we're not stressing out, and that because having these many personalities, everyone doesn't like the same thing. you
Right.
know. So
Yes.
that makes it a challenge. So I just try to keep it general. Okay, I know everyone loves lasagna. Let's do that. I know everyone loves anything with pasta or noodles. We can do that. I know everyone loves tofu, and you can do tofu a million different ways. Long as I have some rice, I try to keep it a protein, a rice. I mean, a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. And as long as I keep that in mind, we are good to go.
Yeah, all those amazing meals that you just mentioned sound incredible. We ourselves like an Alfredo pasta where I mix tofu just like you did in the sauce. So I put tofu, sometimes cashews, nutritional yeast, and then that just makes the
Hmm.
Alfredo sauce. Now, it's funny that many individuals believe that our kids are restricted in their diet when really we are providing an array of variety of plant-based foods, not just from fruits and vegetables, from grains, nuts, seeds, legumes. And so we are really making a conscientious choice to not only raise them on a more compassionate eating pattern, but introduce them to a variety of foods and cultural flavors, like you mentioned.
Yes, I agree. I think that is the most exciting thing. Like, I'm so enamored sometimes by my children knowing what a rambutan is, like because I've exposed them to it. It's like, oh, let's try this fruit. Let's try this
Yeah.
fruit. Oh, let's try this. Oh, this is quinoa. This is couscous. It's we're exposing them, I think, to way more things than
Mm-hmm.
on a traditional, meat eating
Yep.
diet. And I think that's great. And I tell a lot of parents and moms, and people who are hesitant about going vegan. I was like, well, if first of all, I like to cook, so that's not, that's a whole nother story. But eat by culture, and then you can have a different variety. You can eat Indian culture, you can eat Ethiopian, you can eat Italian, you can eat Caribbean, and that way you can have a variety of different foods to try, and not just the same burgers and fries, or trying to make a vegan chicken wing, whatever it is. You can eat by culture. That way you can expand the palate and expose them to different spices and different types of foods, nuts and grains.
Yeah, it's wonderful the type of meals that we can have all on plants. Now,
Oh, on plants.
now, what advice would you offer to other parents or caregivers who may be considering raising their kids vegan or who are currently raising their kids vegan?
I would say, once again, like I spoke at the summit, is education. Educate yourself. Getting together with someone like you who is well versed in nutrition is helpful. And that's what I mean by education, like knowing what
Mm-hmm.
foods you need. That's the first thing about being vegan. It's beyond just cutting out, the dairy and the eggs. You need to know what your body requires. You need to know that you do need protein, you do need iron, you do need calcium and magnesium. You do
Mm-hmm.
need these things. And then do your research. Okay, well, what provides this? Oh, quinoa provides this. Oh, spinach provides this. Bok choy provides this. And that way you can kind of create a list of all the vegetables and fruits and grains that you can experiment with. That would be step one, is just really educate yourself on what the body needs essentially to just live and stay
Mm-hmm.
alive. What are sources of vitamin C beyond oranges? There's so many sources of vitamin
Yes.
C, um, and even vitamin D. And so start with the education component of it. Grab some awesome cookbooks out there, do some research, and then get into it. Try different things. You kind of got to venture out there and see what your children like, because we know we have picky eaters, and they like everything that we present in front of them. But when we find something that they love, it's like, yes, okay, oatmeal. You love oatmeal for breakfast. Okay, now what can I add to the oatmeal, right, to make it more nutritious? Is that
Right.
flax meal? Maybe a little bit of raisin, some cinnamon, some agave. Just to kind of make them feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's more than just a bowl of oatmeal. But I would say educate yourself. Get a list of all of the vegetables and fruits that you can possibly use, and get creative.
Yeah, I love those suggestions. And I like the one to educate yourself because I think once you know what nutrients or what other health benefits certain plant foods provide, then you can be very creative, as you mentioned, and you can make a million other creations with those.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree.
Well, let our listeners know where they can find more about you and a little bit about Butterfly Kisses Vegan Treats, because I know that that vegan snack and food company is something that we all need in our area.
Yes. Well, I'm local to Atlanta right now. I am revamping my website so that I can ship nationwide, which is
That's
amazing. Um,
amazing.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. He's giving me our the final preview. Hopefully today. I think he said yesterday, but I haven't gotten it. Hopefully today. That way I can ship nationwide and people can get our products anywhere. But I am on Instagram at Buttafly Kisses ATL, and it's spelled Buttafly Kisses ATL. And you can also find that same information on our website, which is also butterflykissesatl.com.
Well, thank you, Misty. And we'll leave the link to your website and Instagram account in our show notes. But please visit Misty at her vegan bakery if you live in the area. We know there's a need for more businesses like her. And if you're having a birthday party, please come to Misty's um, business
Yes.
to get some cupcakes or cake or cookies to celebrate your own vegan child celebrations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carla. I appreciate you. And this was a great conversation.
Well, thanks so much for coming to the Vegan Nutrition Podcast, Misty, and share your expertise with the audience. Thank you for listening to our conversation. I hope that hearing Misty's experiences in raising her 5 kids vegan gives you the inspiration and confidence to continue living a life of purpose, one that aligns with your values and your dedication to extending more compassion for animals. If you find it helpful, I would be so grateful if you can share this conversation with others who may need a little support along their vegan feeding journey. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye for now.